Movie Groove, 7 to 9 Thursdays on Energy Groove Radio.
There's some funky in your evening. That was Earth, Wind and Fire.
Oh, yeah.
And what the heck was the name of that track? It was right there. Every now and again, this thing, it just kind of gets rid of the track so that I can't back announce it. And it's very annoying.
I like to mix my wind with fire sometimes.
Oh, look, we've got Bobby McFerrin. We won't be playing that. Welcome back to Movie Groove. It's what's on screen. We're on Energy Groove Radio, transmitting live from the beautiful city of Sydney and all around the world. My name is Alister Lockhart, and sitting in the chair with me is a lovely Gavalanche. How are you doing?
Hello.
Next on the show, we've got the segment where we have a look at what's opening in theatres in Australia and all around the world. This is Opening Scene. That really is rubbish.
Quality.
Is it?
Top shelf, mate. No
terrible.
expense spared.
Anyway, Godzilla. Featuring the Japanese film monster of the same name in a reboot of the Godzilla film franchise, in this movie, Godzilla, an ancient creature, is a terrifying force of nature, depicted in a style faithful to the Toho series of Godzilla films. An upgrade on the last time, which gave us a cross between an iguana and a T-Rex, only boring. Plus, it fails to kill Matthew Broderick.
It was terrible, that last one.
Yeah.
Absolutely awful.
It shouldn't really be all that hard to kill Matthew Broderick.
Not really. I mean, he's married to Sarah Jessica Parker, so come on.
Yeah,
You'd
fun,
be
but not
asking
hard.
for it.
Yeah.
Oh, please, Godzilla, just stomp. Even Godzuki, come on in.
You kept missing him. Anyway, he was inside his mouth. Sorry, spoiler alert, the movie's a bunch of shit. There's a scene where they drive a taxi into the creature's mouth at some stage.
Yes.
You know, earlier on it bit a gunship in half and it exploded, and that was fine, but taxi, bit too much of a mouthful for
The
this
funny thing was,
idiotic
inside
God almighty.
Godzilla's mouth smelt better than inside of the taxi. It's true.
So a big shout out to everybody who lives in New York. In licensing Godzilla to two legendary pictures, I should say, Toho set down some specific conditions. Godzilla had to be born of a nuclear accident, and it had to be set in Japan. The film deals with a mysterious disaster at a fictional Japanese nuclear power plant named Janjira, which causes the evacuation of Tokyo. The disaster impacts on American physicist Joe Brody, played by Bryan Cranston, and 15 years later, Brody remains obsessed with finding out what really happened.
I want to talk to somebody in charge. You are not fooling anybody when you say that what happened was a natural disaster. You're lying. Because what's really happening is that you're hiding something out there. And it is going to send us back to the Stone Age. God help us all.
Boo. So,
Back to the Stone Age, dude.
yeah. So, the film is directed by Gareth Edwards, Australia's former ambassador to the United Nations.
That's him.
What? Yeah?
Yeah, no, same guy.
Same guy?
Yep.
Good. We have to be accurate. This is a news show and stars Aaron Taylor-Johnson from Kick-Ass, Ken Watanabe playing the obligatory Japanese guy who pronounces the name properly, Gojira. Yeah, so it's actually Gojira go. Elizabeth Olsen, Juliette Binoche, Sally Hawkins, David Strathairn, and Bryan Cranston, who, as you heard, spends most of the movie yelling, "You don't understand? You have to believe me, and you just don't get it, do you?"
He went from Breaking Bad to acting bad.
Yeah, well, the guy's got very little to work. You know, you just don't get it, do you? I think that must be the most overused, apart from "you look like shit."
And oh my God, let's get out of here.
Yeah, you just don't get it, do you? $1 Million Arm. There you go. Directed by Craig Gillespie, whoever he is, from a screenplay written by Tom McCarthy, whoever he is. The film is based on the true story of baseball pitchers Rinku Singh and Dinesh Patel, who were discovered by sports agent J.B. Bernstein after winning a reality show competition thing. Bernstein is played by John Hamm, a bad name for an actor, but he makes up for it by being so impossibly handsome you could literally watch him strangle a puppy in a Nazi uniform and you'd still swoon. Anyway, he goes to India seeking baseball pictures through a reality show called $1 Million Arm. They find two Indian kids whom they hope to teach baseball and make them Major League Baseball players. It's a sport movie, so spoiler alert, against all odds the team wins and Ham's character will learn to believe in himself again, kick his drinking habit, probably, and be reunited with his estranged wife/girlfriend/child, probably to the tune of We Are the Champions by Queen.
Hooray!
Sorry, did I blow the ending?
It's really blown. I like the name, $1 Million Arm.
It is quite a good title, yeah.
I've seen a different kind of movie called with the same title.
Yeah.
Different style of movie, though.
A good title can carry you a long way. Like, Eat, Pray, Love. It's absolute dross. It's the same travel blog,
Yes.
as has been done a million times, but great title. Ended up being a movie. Half a Yellow Sun. Half a Yellow Sun. You see, later on what I do is I edit it into a podcast and I make it sound like I know exactly what I'm doing. People have actually said, wow, you talk and panel at the same time? That's really difficult. Yeah, no kidding.
You're professional.
A new film starring Chiwetel Ejiofor. See, I'm always really proud that I can pronounce that guy's name.
Chew a little edgy.
Chiwetel Ejiofor, a man whose name will ring throughout time, pronounced 300 different ways and almost never correctly, except by me, Chiwetel Ejiofor.
Too little? What?
During the mid to late 60s, twin sisters Olana, Dandy Newton, and Kanyenyen, played by Anika Noni Rose, return to Nigeria after their education in England. They make decisions that shock their family. Olana moves in with her lover, the revolutionary Professor Odenigbo, played by Chiwetel Ejiofor,
Chewbacca,
and his houseboy Ugwu, played by John Boyega. When Kayenene takes over the family interest and pursues a career as a businesswoman, falling in love with Richard, Joseph Mole, an English writer. As the Igbo people struggle to establish Biafra as an independent republic, the sisters become caught up in the shocking violence of the Nigerian Civil War and a betrayal that threatens their family forever. This film is directed by, I can't pronounce that, and written by, not even going to try that one, Chiwetel Ejiofor.
Chewbacca. Chew tobacco?
That's the opening scene for this week, and so until next week, know this: it's always darkest before the opening scene.
Top tip, people, if your computer's not working, put it in the dishwasher, cleans out all the bugs, you're good to go.
Yeah. That's a hot tip. Anyway, every now and again we like to take you, the listener, down the road to a new world. A world where there are no rules. This is the bit we call Trailer Trash.
Sakes alive, looks like we've got us a convoy.
Comedy.
Love it.
So first on Trailer Trash, Lucy. Scarlett Johansson stars in this new Luc Besson sci-fi action thriller about a young woman who is forced to become a drug mule and inadvertently manages to absorb the drug she's carrying in her own system. Rather than landing her in the hospital, the drug makes her go all Neo with it and gives her superhuman powers, including telekinesis, the elimination of all sensations of pain or discomfort, and the ability to absorb knowledge instantaneously. So, LSD, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Every single time. Anyway, here's a clip.
What happened? What did you do to my stomach? What's going on?
You've merely slipped a little package into your lower tummy.
And you're going to transport something very special to us.
Hey! You speak English?
No.
You speak English?
Yes.
Take me to the hospital now.
Hospital.
Somebody put a bag of drugs inside me. I need you to take it out. It's leaking.
It is estimated most human beings only use 10% of their brain's capacity. Imagine if we could access 100%. Interesting things begin to happen. Yes?
Professor Norman, my name's Lucy. I just read all your research on the human brain. It's a little rudimentary, but you're on the right track.
Thank you.
I have access to 28% of my cerebral capacity. I can feel every living thing.
Since when did you start writing Chinese?
Since an hour ago.
What happens when she reaches 100%?
I have no idea.
Blah. So that was Lucy. It looks like it's going to kick some huge arse to me, despite the stupid premise. They've gone with the old man only uses 10% of his brain thing again. That's a myth. I thought that had died with the advent of neural imaging, and that was early this century. But nope, there's apparently enough people who still believe that crap, so it can still be the premise for yet another Innocent Becomes a God movie.
I'm lucky to hit 5% myself.
Yeah, well.
Yeah.
Now, you might be using as little as 10% if you're watching TV. apparently. Through the course of the average day, you'll end up using the whole thing. Still, at least this one has Scarlett Johansson schooling bad guys with guns, superpowers, and that pouty look she's got that tends to make me go a bit quiet. So you saw Powder all those years ago?
No, I didn't.
There's this weird film where they found a kid in the basement, with bright white skin and no hair on him. And, he was like a super genius. And Disney, Buena Vista Entertainment, put a whole bunch of money into it. But then, shortly before its release, they just gave it a really quiet, limited release and left it at that. Because they found out that their director, unbeknownst to them, had actually been convicted for child molestation at some period.
Oh, no.
Which makes it a bit uncomfortable when you're watching the film and there's those long, lingering shots on muscular orphan boys pouring water on themselves. Yeah, it's a little bit. So yeah, eventually they waited a year and repackaged it as a film with John Travolta called Phenomenon.
Ah, okie-dokie.
So anyway, that's the legend anyway. I don't know that these things are true. I should probably shut the hell up.
Because when you were talking about a movie about a really white guy with a shaved head, isn't that Moby?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of them. You're a really white guy with a shaved head.
I am. Hare Krishna.
Anyway, Transformers. And the new trailer is up this week, as well as a poster that features Optimus Prime riding a dinosaur. There we go. Check that out.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now that I'm going to go see.
Come on, now my life is complete.
That's awesome.
All indications are that it'll be no better than the last three.
Who cares? Optimus Prime.
Was it Roberto Orci again? I'm not sure if Roberto Orci wrote this one. He wrote the first one. Orci and Harvey Kurtzman, I believe, are the screenwriters responsible for Star Trek Into Darkness. You watched Star Trek Into Darkness, didn't you? Yeah, yeah. There's a thumbs down from the professional movie maker in the corner there. Yep. It really was just the worst. Just we need to get Klingons into this somehow. All right, well then they transport there for some reason. The challenge is if you can explain to me in one paragraph what Khan's plot was in that movie, then I'll buy you a house. That invitation is not extended to Roberto Orci, by the way. All indications are that it will be no better than the last three, but your man Michael Bay knows how to draw a crowd, not least in part by apparently having a scene where Optimus Prime rides a frickin' dinosaur. Yeah! We've actually got an exclusive clip of that movie. We got this before any other media outlet. Check this out.
All hands to combat!
What? No.
Same old, same old. Fans of the series who know the Dinobots of old, their reader Grimlock, an alien robot who transforms into a giant T-Rex, being an addition that revitalized the original cartoon series and looks set to do the same again with this fourth movie. The conflict in the movie apparently stems from the fact that humanity is pretty pissed off about the Transformers and the whole attack on Chicago thing. I didn't actually know that. Chicago, was it? I thought it was New York again. It's usually New York.
Or Paris. Paris usually gets it first.
No, Paris gets destroyed and then first. New York gets,
saved.
Yeah.
Sort of half-trashed and then saved.
Right. Yeah, Mark Wahlberg's character is a struggling family man who salvages an old truck only to find that it's the long-missing Optimus Prime, which draws Autobots, Decepticons, and a ruthless and paranoid government agency to their door. The government wants to wipe out all the Transformers. Optimus has lost all his faith in humankind, and we've got Marky Mark trying to convince them that they're still good in the world and we need to work together. Let's hope Optimus Prime never gets wind of this crap. There's a horrible dawning realization.
I like this song.
You are dead to me now. Ah, feel it. Ah. Right, no more of that. Where's the stop button? That's... Oh, dear. Yeah, no, there is no hope for mankind.
Let's go to Leroy's.
No, let's not do that.
It's a newie joke there, folks.
That is a very obscure reference.
Thursday
Remember,
nights.
we're transmitting all around the world. Thursday night at Leroy's.
People are flocking to get into
Oh,
Leroy's
my
on
Lord.
Thursday nights.
If you can remember Leroy's, please don't call in. Anyway, apes. It is the near future and a growing nation of genetically evolved apes led by Caesar, in Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. They're threatened by a band of human survivors of the devastating virus, unleashed a decade earlier by silly scientists doing silly scientisty stuff like they do. They reach a fragile peace, but it proves short-lived as both sides are brought to the brink of a war that will determine who will emerge as Earth's dominant species. Spoiler alert, the movie is called Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Anyway, here's a clip.
My money's on the donkeys.
Family. We don't mean any harm!
I know why you're scared. It took us 4 years fighting that virus, but we are survivors.
It was a virus created by scientists in a lab. You can't blame the apes.
Who the hell else am I gonna blame?
We need to give them a chance.
Welcome, animals.
No, don't shoot! Apes! Together! Strong! War has already begun.
Ooh. So that looks pretty cool, actually. Gary Oldman stars as Gary Oldman doing his thing. Not sure what happened to him. He used to be a great character actor, but now he's just playing the same role that he had in the last 2 Batman movies, i.e. shouty guy who makes bad decisions. Also starring is Andy Serkis, hidden under a bunch of CGI as Caesar the Clever Ape. Serkis recently told the press that when it comes to performance capture in movies, the actor does all the work and the CG artists, well, all they do is add some makeup in a computer. Now, as a fan of his work, it's an intensely stupid and narcissistic thing for Serkis to say, in my opinion, considering the fact that he would have no career without these artists. Like many people who work in the industry, I'll be hoping to hear an audible pop. We should be hearing that around about the time he pulls his head out of his arse.
And that's the fellow that did...
That's Gollum. Yeah, the Gollum guy.
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, seriously, if you think that all they're doing is adding a layer of CG makeup, well, then why not just do it in a gorilla suit with a rubber mask, and we'll see what kind of performance I get out of you then, you twat. Edge of Tomorrow. An upcoming American sci-fi flick starring Tom Cruise and Emily Blunt. The film is directed by Doug Liman and is based on the Japanese novella All You Need Is Kill by Hiroshi Sakurazaka, which was the movie's original title until a couple of mass shootings happened in the United States. You know, it was a holiday weekend. In the near future, an alien race has invaded the Earth and has defeated the world's military units. Major William Cage, Tom Cruise, a military officer with no experience in combat, is deployed into mission against the aliens and is killed in minutes, but he finds himself starting over in a time loop, repeating the same combat mission and being killed again and again, like in a video game. So, you know, the video game designers aren't going to work too hard to do the license there. Each time, Cage learns to better fight the aliens, and he teams up with Special Forces warrior Rita Vrataski. Emily Blunt, she's smoking hot. Smoking. Emily Blunt. Damn it. To defeat them, Tom will need to bring all of his acting skills to bear because apparently there's a love scene.
And a box.
You know, it's okay. It's not like he needs to get wood, but still. Come on, Tom, just get out with it. That's all from the Trailer Park for this week. Join us again next time, because this time it's personal. Again.
So we crashed the gate doing 98 as us let them truckers roll 10-4.
You're on Energy Groove Radio, transmitting live from the city of Sydney and all around the world. My name is Alister Lockhart, and we've got an interview with a man called Ian Brown. You don't know who he is, but you certainly know his work. Ian has been working in digital visual effects in this country basically since they started doing them back in the mid-90s. He got his start working at Animal Logic on films such as Terrence Malick's The Thin Red Line, in which the 1942 invasion of the island of Guadalcanal was apparently undertaken by the US Marines Philosophical Dialectic Division. Moulin Rouge, in which Baz Luhrmann reimagines 19th century Paris as a singing wedding cake, and Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, the only bearable Hobbit movie yet made. He directed the animated sequences for Tomb Raider 4, a process at which no point included the phrase, "more jiggly, please." And he was head of VFX and animation at the Australian Film, Television and Radio School. A good enough option if you can't get into the SAE. Our proud sponsors, go to the SAE, they're the best. Ian is currently developing the animated series Supermassive, about an alien hardcore metal band who kidnap an underage girl. That's a kids' show, apparently. And Alien TV, a show which Ian describes as my first foray into high-quality fart-related comedy. Hello, Ian.
Hey, how you going?
Thank you very much for coming into the show. It's nice to have an actual, media professional on the show rather than just the pretenders that come in usually. I say, pretend that you know something. Oh. Okay. So you started with a degree in industrial design.
Yes, which is where we met, in fact.
That's right. Ian and I met at the University of Newcastle an astonishingly long time ago.
Oh, God.
Don't you dare tell everybody what my age is. Don't you dare. So at what point did that sort of translate into a career in visual effects?
Well, I think the thing is, I've always wanted to work in visual effects, and I've always wanted to work in film. And looking back on it, I think industrial design was a bit of a kind of a detour. It's a thing I always really wanted to do, but coming from a small town in Newcastle, the options were quite limited.
No.
So I started out in engineering. I went to uni and studied engineering for 2 years before I realised that the way machines looked and the way they were designed were two completely different things, and I would never be happy designing a bulldozer or a tractor unless it was on fire and leaping over the Grand Canyon. So I kind of realized
I know exactly what you mean.
It was never going to do it for me. So industrial design had just started up at Newcastle, and I thought, well, this is my ticket out of engineering.
Yeah, when you say just started up, they had us in a bunch of portables.
Oh,
and
yeah.
we had to wade through a sea of mud every day to get to the...
I remember the mud.
Yeah.
It was, World War One mud.
So we're getting into that... We sound like somebody's grandfather. I used to walk 5 miles carrying a hose through 3 foot snow.
We had to burn our own trees to make our own charcoal to make our own pencils.
Luxury.
Yeah.
So you started working at Animal Logic. Everybody in Australia knows Animal Logic. If you know movies, they've done a massive amount of work on really high level property stuff. They made Happy Feet and Happy Feet 2.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. No, Happy Feet 2 went to.
What happened was George Miller started his own studio.
Yeah.
Which is a very interesting set of circumstances, which I can't talk about.
Yeah, no.
But he started up his own company to make it, which currently doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah. And so I actually went for a job at KMMG. Kennedy Miller, the game studio, which didn't last very long.
No, not long after that either.
No, yeah. So, but gave it a damn good go. It's difficult to get up in Australia.
I'm just wondering what the extent of my non-disclosure agreements are.
Don't worry about it. Nobody's listening. Are you listeners? Please don't tell anybody.
Well, don't tell anyone else.
So you started work at Animal Logic. What were your first impressions of working in the industry? Bit of a sausage factory, or?
No, I freaking loved it because when I started at Animal, there were like 5 guys in 3D. There was myself and 4 or 5 other people who also came into the industry from all sorts of different places. There was a model maker, there was a traditional 2D animator, there was someone who ran Paintbox back in the days of when Quantel ruled the world.
Oh boy!
Yeah, so we did everything. So it was just, and we didn't know what the possibilities were. Like now, Everest has been climbed. It's very, very, very difficult to impress an audience with visual effects now.
Yeah.
And God knows they try.
Yeah.
But back then we had no idea. Well, how were we going to make something look photoreal? We had to basically do what the Renaissance artists did back in the 14th. How long ago was that? All that time ago, they had to basically analyze reality and figure out, well, what makes something look glossy? Well, what color are shadows under these conditions? We had to break everything down and work out, what actually made something look realistic.
Yeah.
Of course, now it's all just, everyone kind of gets that.
Well, you have to write proprietary software to get certain effects, and then, of course, once it's written, then it can be sold on and licensed to other places, and so now water is relatively easy. Yeah. Where back then, doing an animated dinosaur was the province of high-level artisans actually working in the industry. Now any kid in his bedroom can do it, really, with time and application.
The barrier, I won't say that, but I will say the barrier to entry has never been lower. Like you can do virtually anything with the knowledge, with $1,000 gear and pirated software, or not even pirated software. In fact, there's a lot of open source packages around. That you can do anything for almost nothing.
Brave new world, man. By the time you're working on Moulin Rouge and Fellowship of the Ring, the direction you wanted to go in creatively, had that come into focus by then, or?
I think so, because I think by the time we started work on the bigger films, it was starting to become a sausage factory. And in a way, I think we've sort of done our job a little too well, because when I first started, everybody kind of was, they were artisans, basically.
Yeah.
We did everything. We did the modelling, the texturing, the compositing, the animation, everything. It was, you had direct ownership over, what you did. But we found that to take on the larger projects and to make ourselves, I guess, less central, because if I was working on something and I fell under a bus, everybody would just be completely screwed. So we broke the work down into smaller and smaller manageable bits and created a pipeline full of easily replaceable bits. And we thought, oh, well, this is really clever. Now we can all relax. We can employ people and get them working on bigger shows, and nobody's people are nobody's indispensable anymore, which we thought was a great idea. But we didn't think too far ahead, and now all of us are disposable, essentially.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but you do need a guy who does good smoke.
You do. They're specialists.
Yeah, there are people who specialise in exactly that kind of thing, and you can always tell when, if you know the technology, you can always tell when they've gone cheap on something like smoke or fire.
Oh, yeah.
And when they're using the same algorithm over and over again.
Even that's kind of out of the box now. Smoke and fire and effects. I mean, you can get like the difference between what some a middling artist can do and a really high end one. Like the gap is narrowing.
Yeah,
really.
Yeah. I made a film,
yes,
a 10-minute short called Nullarbor, and the guy who did the finish on that, he's an artisan. He can do a broad range of things, but professionally, he works on really high-end films as well. Your Planets of the Apes and your Avatars and your Star Wars films and whatnot. And he lights fur.
He loves fur.
No, he lights.
Oh, he lights fur.
He lights fur.
Oh,
he places. He makes the fur look like it's being realistically lit, and that's what he does for 6 months of the year.
And he travels, does he not?
Yes, he does. Yeah, New Zealand or San Francisco most times. Spends 6 months of the year away from his family. The other 6 months of the year just at home, hanging out.
This is what the industry's like at the moment.
Yeah, it's all contract based. It's all, and in a way, it's kind of killed the magic, because back in the day, you watch a film like An American Werewolf in London for the first time, and you go, how in the hell did they do that? Where now the question is already answered. How'd they do that on its computers?
Yeah.
Well, even the war. Yeah.
This is going to be really terrible, and this is going to be a window into my relationship with the industry at the moment. But
strap yourselves in.
I subscribe to and I'm sure a lot of you have heard of this. I subscribe to a magazine called Cinefex magazine, which has been around for 20, 30 years. It's an American magazine, and it's long been considered kind of like the industry Bible, the repository of all kind of knowledge of visual effects films that are coming out. And I've got every one since 86 or 87 or something or Terminator, basically.
Yeah.
And the last 3 or 4 years worth of Cinefexes are sitting on my shelf, still in the plastic shrink wrap.
Yeah.
I don't read it anymore. I subscribe to it just in case, but I don't read it because I know, like going through it, it's not, we did this effect, we got a KFC bucket, we put covered it in model kit parts, and then we did something really cool and really lateral thinking, and we solved this problem with a really interesting way. Yeah. It's basically all it's either Maya or Houdini, or we wrote something for it, but I can't tell you about that.
Anyway, you also worked on Sejong Park's Oscar-nominated animated short, Birthday Boy.
Yes.
Better working on a small passion project?
Obviously, they're different, but they're similar in a lot of ways. Like the level of pressure is interesting because it's a different kind of pressure. Like when you're working on something that the entire Western world is going to see.
Yeah.
That is you have to divorce yourself from that pressure. You can't think about it all the time, otherwise you'll never get anything done. But when you're working on something small that someone has worked sometimes 5-10 years on to achieve, and maybe they've mortgaged their house. I know Sejong had made a lot of personal sacrifices to get there. You feel a personal responsibility to realise their dream and their vision, and oh hell, this guy's going to lose his house if it doesn't do well, or if it are the rewards going to be worth it? So it's a different set of pressures, and I think if you're not an empathetic person, I don't know, maybe you're not going to feel that kind of pressure, but you do. You feel for these people.
I think when we made our film, we made it for about 190 grand that we got through funding. We worked out that if everybody had been paid properly, it would have cost $1.2 million.
Yeah.
So
How long was it? 10 minutes.
It was a 10-minute film.
Yeah.
It's called Nullerbore. Look it up on you can pay for it on iTunes, but it is also available on YouTube. I didn't put it up. If you want to watch it for free, go on. It's quite good. And,
it is very good. It won lots of awards, didn't it? Loads of awards.
It won a ton of awards. We got the AFI that year. We almost got...
when it was still relevant.
Yeah, we almost got the Oscar nom as well.
Yeah, yes, shortlisted, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It's pretty freaking good.
So that was nice. So, we didn't get the Oscar, but it's not like it keeps me awake at night. No, I did.
Well,
didn't get my Oscar.
I've just got sorry to interrupt you. I've got a technical question. When you were working on the Lara Croft film, did you meet Angelina Jolie? You did meet Angelina Jolie?
No, sorry.
Okay, as you were.
No. I've got one of her boobs in a jar, though.
Hang on. Andy's back. Now, and you worked on Lord of the Rings. You've done a lot of impressive work, which is wonderful. What would be, just aside from a newbie point of view, what was the most enjoyable experience of, which was your favourite film to work on?
There are two, and I enjoyed them both for the same reasons. The first one was Moulin Rouge, because it was exactly the experience I thought working in film would be. Working with the director, seeing the work through from conception through the glimmer of the idea, watching the idea actually arrive out of thin air, and seeing it all the way through to completion. It was exactly what I expected film to be like, and the parties too, which was great.
I'm sorry for calling it a singing wedding cake.
Yeah, no. Oh, look, it's very divisive. It's a very, very divisive film. And the other one is actually the one I just finished working on, Gods of Egypt.
Yeah.
Which I can say absolutely nothing about, but I can say I worked in previs, and we pre-visualized the entire film. I was part of the team that basically went from beginning to end and did we did about 5 versions of the film. And to me, again, we were working with the director, and we were able to contribute to the actual narrative of the film. Like we would create scenes that would get written back into the script. So we were working downstairs from the writers, and I actually felt like I was part of the creative community, like the village. Like they built this little village to create the film, to make the film. And that to me was the most exciting job I've worked on in forever.
Fantastic. So that's Alex Proyas's locally produced Gods of Egypt, which is a fantasy film set in sort of an alternate timeline where gods are apparently real.
Yeah, it's what it says on the tin, basically. Gods of Egypt.
So that sounds good. Alex Proyas, of course, who directed The Crow way back when and recently gave us Knowing. What's that face for?
We don't speak of Knowing.
You don't speak of Knowing? Oh,
no,
you see, I didn't think the film was all that bad. It's just that you got to the end, you went like, well, everything that they did in the movie was actually, pointless.
Yeah. I was on Gods for The Crow and for Dark City, basically.
Yeah.
That's why I was there.
Anyway, visual effects, as I was about to say, play a big part in movie making. Some of the most recent blockbusters wouldn't exist without them, of course. In particular, Ang Lee's Life of CGI. Sorry, Ang Lee's Life of Pi. The film, based on the novel by Jan Martel, won Lee the Oscar for Best Director at the 2013 Academy Awards. And here's a little clip of Lee, a little taste of Ang Lee giving his speech on the night.
I cannot make this movie without the help of Taiwan. We shot there. I want to thank everybody there helped us, especially the city of Taichung, my Indian crew, I love you. My Canadian crew, I love you. My family in Taiwan, my wife Jen Lin, we'll be married 30 years this summer. I love you. My boys, Han and Mason, thank you for your support. Finally, my agent Karen Sage and lawyer Ira Streck and Joe DiPaolo. I have to do that.
Yeah, hilarious. So the speech drew howls of protest from all across the VFX industry, led in no small part by Bruce Brannett, visual effects artist for TV shows such as Star Trek, Voyager and Lost, who took to Facebook to vent his anger, saying, quote, "Neither Ang nor his winning cinematographer, Claudio Miranda, felt they needed to thank or even mention the VFX artists who made the sky, the ocean, the ship, the island, the meerkats and, oh yeah, the tiger. He thanked the crew, his actors, his agent, his lawyer, and the entire country of Taiwan, as you heard, right down to the team that built the wave pool on the soundstage where it was shot. But failed to mention the hundreds of artists who made not only the main character of the tiger, but replaced the pool and made it look like a real ocean for 80% of that movie." Rhythm and Hue's Philip Brost, lead compositor on Life of Pi, later published an open letter to Ang Lee in which he writes, "And after a fabulously insulting and dismissive introduction from the cast of The Avengers, at least two of whom spent fully half of their film as a digitally animated character, Rhythm and Hue's won on its work for your very fine piece of cinema. And just as the bankruptcy was about to be acknowledged on a nationally televised platform, the speech was cut short by the Jaws theme." This is the intro by the cast of The Avengers.
And here are the nominees for...
Whoa, wait, man. Yep. You just skipped the big chunk.
You did. Did I?
Yeah, you just went, look. It's important that visual effects artists are given the respect they deserve. This was a huge year for VFX.
Whoa, is that really something that you want to say?
Just roll it back. Let's just give them what they want.
No. Let's just give them the respect they deserve and give them the damn award.
Okay.
Come on.
They create worlds.
And here are the nominees for achievement in visual effects.
So they didn't think that the special effects guys were very important, and neither did the Academy, because here's the acceptance speech that they gave when they came up onto the stage, or at least, a chunk of it. Here we go.
To our director, Ang Lee, you were inspiration, and you made it an incredible journey for all of us. Thank you. To David Womark, Mike Malone, and Tommy Fisher for making a wave tank that kept us from having to go out to the real ocean, and John Kilkenny for inviting all of us to the party in the first place. To my family for all the sacrifices they made. Gabrielle, I love you so much. To my children, Christopher, Thomas, Alexander, and Samantha, thank you for inspiring me every day. To my mom and dad, thank you for telling me I could do any crazy career choice I wanted. Finally, I want to thank all the artists who worked on this film for over a year, including Rhythm and Hues. Sadly, Rhythm and Hues is suffering severe financial difficulties right now. I urge you all to remember.
And that was it. At this point, the team got the bum's rush. What they were about to make light of was the fact that despite their achievement, Rhythm and Hues had filed for bankruptcy just 11 days before, forcing them to lay off more than 250 people without severance. Staff and supporters of the team were at that moment holding a protest outside the theatre where the Oscar ceremony was taking place, something the producers of the broadcast were at great pains to keep well out of frame. So, played off before they could make light of getting hosed after making an Oscar-winning spectacular from footage of a skinny kid alone in a boat. With the theme from Jaws, no less. As Brost wrote in his letter to Ang Lee, if this was meant as a joke, we artists are not laughing. When asked later how he felt about the state of visual effects in the industry, Lee said, "Don't make me Ang Lee, you wouldn't like me when I'm Ang Lee." Hang on. There you go. Sorry, disclaimer, comment is bullshit. Ang Lee never said any such thing. Also, I stole that gag from comedian Stuart Lee. When asked later how he felt about the state of visual effects in the industry, Lee actually said, "I wish they were cheaper." This didn't help much, although to be fair, that's not the whole quote. He did say that he thought it was very sad, and he was sorry about it. Didn't like that it was so tough for people in the industry to make ends meet. Also on hand to comment on the situation was his editor, Tim Squires, who added, "If they can't make money off this, then there's something fundamentally wrong with the business plan between the studios and the visual effects company." Ian, in your opinion, is this correct?
The business plan, from the point of view of the studios, is fine. The studios love this business plan. Unfortunately, it's a complete disaster for the visual effects studios.
What a surprise.
Yes, so the studios are more than happy to create an immense amount of competition between the studios and to force studios to bid a fixed price. Now, this is the big thing. So say you got a great big tentpole picture and you're divvying up all the scenes.
I've always wanted to make a fantasy version of Macbeth.
Oh, look, pitch it to me later.
All right.
We'll put a pitch together. I love it. We'll do lunch. But okay, so they divvy up all the visual effects shots, and they send them out. And a VFX studio will bid on a chunk of a film, and they'll bid a fixed amount. So they'll say, we'll do that scene, the helicopter crashing in a snowstorm, surrounded by dinosaurs, for $5 million. And no matter what the studio asks, whether they say, we don't want dinosaurs, actually we kind of want aliens, and we want armies of them now. So it's always going to cost exactly the same amount, whether it takes 3 weeks or 3 months.
So they lowball them on the, they make a modest ask on the order, and then later on, when the number's been nominated and the contract's been signed,
but it's not. That's true, but it's not deliberate. But it's part of the creative process,
right?
And nobody says no to the director. And the thing is, if you refuse, if you say, well, actually, we're not going to do that, or we need a rebid, then you'll never work in this town again.
So artists are, not to put a finer point out, being exploited.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Unquestionably, absolutely, definitely. That is precisely the word.
It is the kind of industry where, because I used to work in the games industry, same problem. People will work unpaid overtime, nights, weeks, months, especially up at crunch time. I know more than one person who just came home to find that his missus had just left, and when asked why, well, you were never here.
Yeah. It's a common story. Divorces and marital problems. It's just endemic, because most of the workforce is basically itinerant. They're nomads. If you're a texture artist, like a high-end texture artist, or a guy who likes fur, and there are specialists who do that. That's what they do. They are super high-level, world's best fur lighters. But not every job requires lighting fur, and not every job in, say, San Francisco or Sydney or wherever requires fur. So they've got to travel around. So they live out of suitcases. So you've got thousands and thousands of artists who just travel the world, not having a life, not having kids, not able to put down roots. And that in itself that's a whole separate kind of a problem, actually. Separate to basically this VFX Armageddon that we're sort of going through at the moment.
And there's talk of unionising the industry, but a lot of people are fairly confident that wouldn't help.
No, there's a lot of reasons for that, but I can't see that happening. The competition is too fierce, and it's just too international. The bigger problems, and in fact what certainly the Americans are trying to tackle, is the subsidies, foreign subsidies. So basically, in Australia, we say to American studios, hey, you make your film here, we'll pay 40% of it, which is an unbelievably good deal for foreign studios. So they'll bring their production out, put some money into the local economy, but it's really about the glamour, attracting glamour projects.
Yeah.
And
like I, Frankenstein, for example, which was recently produced in this country. Cool. I didn't see the film. I read reviews and I thought, I don't think I'll...
you don't need to see it.
No?
If you live to 100, you'll live a full, rich and happy life, never having seen I, Frankenstein.
Okay. So it would drive prices up. It would take the work outside the States. Two countries like Australia, they would just shift somewhere else, basically. It's too expensive here, we'll go someplace else.
Absolutely.
Would they outsource to countries like Korea and India, where artists are willing to work much longer for much less?
They do. In fact, the genie's out of the bottle. And the thing is, what we've done as VFX professionals is we've created a system, like a pipeline to make this stuff. We've got this big, huge, complex job, and we've broken it down into really, really simple. Well, not actually, that's a bit patronized, but relatively straightforward, specialized jobs, and they're kind of interchangeable. So we can train someone up and slot them into this pipeline. Well, we can do that, but so can the Koreans, or the Chinese, or the Malaysians, or the Singaporeans, and that's exactly what's happening. All the work. At the low end, mid to low end, is going across to Asian countries because the labour's cheaper, and VFX has become a labour job.
Yeah, so as an entity in the art form, you don't have any market value as a VFX company. A director has a name. Sure, actors have a market value. Producers. I know that a lot of times you'll see a film that comes out that looks like a Tim Burton film, and it'll say executive producer Tim Burton. Yeah. The extent of his involvement will very often be that he just signed the deal that stated that they could use his name and did nothing more than that. Yeah. So that, that's got marquee value. But from the special effects team who brought you Avengers, who cares?
Well, that's it. No, in fact, that you've just underlined one of the big problems with. Well, I say we. I mean, I only vaguely identify myself with the VFX industry these days, but nobody cares. Really, truly, nobody gives a shit anymore.
No.
The governments don't. The audience really don't.
Yeah,
anymore.
I think the 80s were really the last of the Stan Winstons and the Rob Botins and all those guys who, you would go to a movie because you heard that the special effects through, what was the name of that magazine? Not Cinefex, the other one.
Fangoria?
I think Fangoria was one of those ones. Starlog.
Yeah.
Where Rob Bottin's working on this movie. Well, then I'm going to go and see that.
He sells insurance now.
Does he indeed?
Or is it real estate? It's one of those, one of those retirement professions where people get out of a stressful industry and go, no, screw it, I'll go sell insurance or something.
That'd be weird if you're going to buy a house and you're like, hi, my name's Rob Bottin. Okay, the Rob Bottin? Yes. So you'd spend the entire day talking about movies.
Is there a basement in this house?
So, do you think that visual effects are being overused in tentpole movies? As a substitute for real substance? We're looking at you, Michael Bay. Wherever you are in the world, we will find you.
Okay, here's the thing. Spectacle has always been overused in films since the 30s and the 40s. Since Ben-Hur, Cleopatra, it's bread and circuses. It's whatever people will buy the tickets for. And this is kind of like the big. I have this argument endlessly with people. They say, why aren't there more women in leading roles? And why are the studios making these really horrible films that don't, enrich the soul? Because people buy the tickets. They know what people will buy tickets for.
Yeah.
And they do all this research. Like, the studio system in America is one of the most incredibly statistically aware corporate bodies in existence. They know exactly. They know to within plus or minus 5% how much a film will earn opening weekend.
Yeah,
which is a staggering premonition, and they're right. They are always right. So they know exactly what people will want to see.
So does that explain why Spider-Man, The Amazing Spider-Man 2 has recently been coming under fire for being less of a movie than just a series of events that appears to be adverts for probably a number of sequels to come? They've already announced Spider-Man 4. They've put, in the Star Trek franchise is going Roberto Orci, who is responsible for writing the script for Into Darkness, is now directing the third one. So guess how good that's going to be.
Yeah, well, the thing is, you mentioned Amazing Spider-Man. Well, the only reason that movie actually exists was because if Sony didn't make another Spider-Man movie, they would lose the trademark. They would lose the rights to make the film.
They've got that grandfather clause.
So that was the only reason they said, oh shit, we have to make another film.
That's why we keep getting X-Men movies from Fox.
Yeah.
Because if they don't keep making them, then they lose the rights, and so they'll just keep pumping them out as long as they make money.
So I haven't actually seen the films because I just feel really weird about going to see a film whose only reason for existence is to keep a company's trademark.
There's a Daredevil movie coming again.
Is Ben Affleck in that one?
No, but I mean, you can't do the suit. It's just one of those things that looks great in a comic. It looks silly in real life.
Yeah. Is that a? That's not Marvel. Is that DC?
I think no. It's a Marvel property, Daredevil, and I think that's at Fox as well. And then you've got, I think, New Line have all of the vampire stuff, Blade and whatnot, and Castle Rock have Ghost Rider.
Woo! We'll just reboot this one more time.
How can you go wrong with a guy who's got a flaming skull for a head?
I know. How can they screw that up? It mystifies me. It's even with or without Nicolas Cage, it's a mystery.
Well, Nicolas Cage makes anything good.
For the wrong reasons.
Yeah, for exactly the wrong reasons. Anyway, here in Australia, we too have a developing VFX industry. Well, developing, I've written here.
Well, it's pretty developed now.
Yeah, Animal Logic, of course, recently scored a massive hit with their work on the Lego Movie. They're ramping up production on the sequel, I believe. Rising Sun Pictures recently featured their work in Alfonso Cuarón's Gravity, as well as many, many other films that you've seen. Allura realised Seth MacFarlane's Ted, and you recently worked on Proof, with Proof Inc., on Alex Proyas's upcoming fantasy flick Gods of Egypt, as you said. Now, we've taken a fairly serious hit, games industry and VFX industry both, from dollar parity. what's the health of the local industry like?
At the moment, it's pretty rock bottom. It's about as bad as I've ever seen it. It's like a perfect storm, because you've got this incredible kind of Armageddon going on overseas. Nobody's doing well. Absolutely nobody, and in fact, nobody's been doing well for a very long time. In fact, I go to this computer graphics conference every couple of years. Sometimes it's held in LA, sometimes it's in Vancouver, or every couple of years I go to this thing. And the last one I went to, the mood was very, very depressed. So worldwide, I think there's everyone's hurting. But in Australia, not only do we have that, we've also got a very high dollar, which once upon a time was like a big reason that studios would come out of, because we have great crews and we have great talent. We have a lot of advantages over American companies, but it's just absolutely appalling. We've had a couple of bankruptcies. We've had a couple of high-profile companies go out of business. And it's really bad. A lot of people have left. They've gone overseas. They've gone to Canada, wherever they've following the work. So it's about as bad as it's ever been, I think.
Yeah, the same thing did happen to the games industry. I was an art director, and I'd reached a point in my career where I didn't have to argue with anybody anymore. And then in 2010, it just all went away. And everybody I know has either changed industries or changed countries. And I didn't want to change countries because I like it here. So, but I teach now, and as it turns out, it's the best job I've ever had.
Well, that's what I thought for a long time, in fact.
Yeah. So I enjoy teaching making games far more than I actually enjoyed making games.
There's a lot in common with them.
Yeah, but don't forget the old saying, those who can do, those who can't
Shut
teach.
up!
Those that really can't, teach PE.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were going... I should have realised you're going somewhere with that.
So, and those who can't teach tend to do it anyway. So... It's taken a massive hit. The dollar parity hasn't helped any of us. All the work came from overseas, basically. When the dollar shot up to the same value as the American dollar, then all the work disappeared, and there's very little games industry in Australia now. And most of what is there is all owned by EA.
Yeah. Well, interestingly, the VFX industry is going through a very similar... almost exactly the same thing as the games industry went through. And the problem with the Australian games industry was it was all contract work.
Yeah.
So nobody actually created any IP. So once the flow of contract work dried up, that was it. There was nothing. It just died in the arse. And VFX is doing almost exactly the same thing. It's all been contract work for a long time. So now Animal and a few other companies are spearheading a move into IP. And that's kind of where we all should be heading in this country.
Yeah.
Is generating IP and creating IP, because...
IP, for the listeners, is...
intellectual property, content. So we should be writing the scripts, developing the content to sell to other people, and we'll basically do outsourcing the labor and owning the content, which is what the Americans have been doing for years. And it sounds terrible and cynical to say that, but it's part of the natural evolution of any industry. Like the labor goes to the cheapest market. And the content creators control the IP.
It doesn't seem very likely. The Abbott government just announced this year's budget, and they've slashed arts funding across the board. The games industry has had millions of dollars pulled out of it. Screen Australia has millions of dollars taken away from it. The ABC, the SBS. Yeah, we're going to see a lull in the coming years.
I think it's going to be worst felt in games, sadly. Again, I think games are very, very vulnerable as an industry. It's not like film or television, where there's a very long tail in film and television. You create content and people can rewatch it for years and years hence, and the production values don't date.
Yeah.
Whereas with games, you've got such a narrow window to make money out of it. There's no long tail. You get some games that absolute classics, Day of the Tentacle or Myst or whatever. They get re-released every so often, but most games they die.
They're really disposable. Yeah,
very disposable. So there's no long tail. There's no company that has a back catalogue like a studio does, where they're generating income from it. It's just they die almost instantly. So it's a big problem. Games will get hit. Sadly, very badly.
So the last question I've got written down here is, what is the general outlook for the local industry in your opinion?
We're screwed. No,
no, that would do.
Yeah. In all honesty, I think there's going to be a further contraction. I think but we're hopefully going to evolve. I mean, I know a lot of the people and a lot of the companies I know are forging ahead into IP and creating, their own content and telling their own stories and, having fun doing that, because that's what we should be doing, and that's what I got into the industry for.
So do your own stuff, kids, and if it's good enough, they'll beat a path to your door. And in fact, it doesn't even need to be all that good. You've seen Twilight. We're going to wrap up the show pretty quickly, but I just wanted to do this before we go. Every week I like to remind the listeners that my favourite bit of the Oscars is the In Memoriam segment. Why wait until March when we can enjoy death every week in a bit that we call Dead for Reals?
Behind the clouds, the sun is shining. There's a big blue sky waiting right behind the clouds.
Well, you're dead now, so shut up.
Yes, and this week on Dead for Reals, H.R. Geiger has died, sadly from injuries sustained from a fall. H.R. Geiger, of course, is the man who famously created the alien from Alien, a nightmare which remains firmly cemented in pop culture. When did you first see Alien, Ian?
I actually saw it the day before I went to see Aliens.
Oh.
In the cinema.
Yeah.
But I'd always been aware of it. In fact, one of the reasons I became an industrial designer was because I found a making of Alien book that came out in '79, and all Ron Cobb's work was in it.
Oh.
And I just kind of...
Is he still around, Rob Cobb?
He made me coffee. I went to his house.
How about that?
The name dropper.
Oh, hang on. Where's my cans? I don't have my cans.
It was the morning after.
Yeah. You don't want to know what I would do.
Hang on. Possibly a...
Very good.
A rim shot.
Yeah.
Thank you. See, the gag was in the... Yeah. That's very meta. Anyway, so that was Ron Cobb, the other guy that is famous for working on Alien. We're talking about Giger. Everybody knows his work. There's people all over the world that actually have his artwork tattooed on their body, which not many artists can boast. His living canvas. We have a picture of him here. Unfortunately, towards the end, he started to look more or less exactly like Dr. Zaius from the original Planet of the Apes. So there you go. Let himself go. He was living the life.
I actually saw Mr. Giger speak from 1 to 10, and I said, "Excuse me, are you a Giger counter?"
Yeah. And so, a lot of penis work in his work. I've got a couple of his books, and a lot of glistening biomechanical penis and vagina work there, and the interaction thereof. Apparently, he used to have nightmares that he couldn't bear, so he just put them on the canvas and ended up being
for us all to enjoy.
So if you look at them, there's a fair bit of penis and vagina work there. There's the original artwork for the alien, and as you can see, his head is just a big old schlonger.
Yeah, don't you love radio?
I'll look it up on the internet. You've all got Google. What do you want me for? So if you haven't seen Giger's work by now, where have you been? What have you been doing? Anyway, condolences to H.R. Giger's family and friends. We just have to thank him for his years of work in science fiction and cinema and video games and album covers, his art and his sculptures. Yeah, we miss him already. And that's the final bow. It's curtains once again on Dead for Reals, and we'll see you on the other side. And that's all that we've got time for on the show. We're really, really late, and somewhere, someone is very, very angry at me. So thank you for coming in. It's been a distinct pleasure.
It was indeed.
Will you come in again?
Absolutely.
All right, I'll look forward to that, and we can sit and bitch about the industry some more.
Movie Groove, 7 to 9 Thursdays on Energy Groove Radio.